Goodness gracious. Okay. All right, friends. Happy Friday. I'm just going to go ahead and jump in. Hey, Pax. How's it going? Happy Friday. Hi, Sarah. Eek. What is happening to my headphones? Are all like twisted. Oh, okay. Hi, Vinny. Hi, friends. Hope all is well. All is well with me today. It is the end of a very busy week. Andrew has had band camp all week, so he's been like gone basically the entire week this week. And so I've been like solo momming it while he's been gone. Oh, what is my bangs are going crazy. So it's been hectic and crazy and a little stressful, but it's good. It's good. So he's done after today. I've got to go. I help the band that he works with like social media content. So I've got to go and take care of some of that stuff today. And they have like a big preview show tonight that they're doing to like showcase everything they've been working on. And so it's all good. It's just crazy. And then he's got band this whole weekend with a different group that he works with. And then he's gone all next week too. It's a lot. It's a lot. And a summer crazy. Yeah, that's pretty much it, Sarah. We're like 3 weeks out from my kids starting school. Wild. Absolutely wild. So I keep thinking about, man, I really want to get them to Kings Island and I want to get the kids to the zoo and all of that. So now I got to look after this weekend and see when we can do all of those. So it's been a little wild. It's been a little crazy and stressful, but that's okay. It's good. It's good. All good. So, all right. Today we're talking 5 things I wish I knew before my first Disney trip with kids. Uh, Hopefully, pretty straightforward, quick and easy episode. And then I'm off and running to the next thing that I have to do today. So they do go so fast, Sarah. But I think about like we had a really fun trip to Hershey Park. We had a really fun trip when we did like Carowinds and the beach. Like my kids have had a ton of summer fun, so we're doing okay with that. We got to go swimming a few more times. We got to make it to Kings Island. That's like high up on my list. So, uh hopefully, but it's hard because I don't it's really hard to take my 2 kids by myself without Andrew going with me, and he's just so busy that like it's hard to find a time where all 4 of us can go because my older one loves like coasters and big thrill rides and my younger one is like she's okay on them, uh, but doesn't love all of the same ones that, and can't ride all the same ones that her brother can. So, because she is like 53 inches, and some of the bigger coasters at Kings Island are 54. So she's like right there. Please do, Sarah and Anna, please come and go with me. Please come and go with me. I would love that. That would be so much fun. But yeah, it's hard, right, to coordinate when your kiddos like different things. So that's been the struggle with getting to Kings Island has been I don't have another grown up that I can divide and conquer with. So But that's okay. That's okay. It'll be good. It'll be fine. So you'll sit with her. I know you would, Anna. She would love that because she just wants any grown up to pay attention to her. So if she had a grown up that was like all hers and would go on whatever she wanted to go on, she would be thrilled. She would be, doesn't have to be mom. It can be literally whoever. They're open during the fall. Kings Island, some, yes, mostly weekends. Like because their haunt starts. We looked this up, didn't we? I'll have to look up dates and when they're open and stuff. But yeah, they are open mostly weekends, like Friday nights for the haunt, and then Saturday until 6 or 7 for the haunt, and then Sunday like afternoons. I want to say. I would have to remember for sure what it is. So, but yes, we'll have to figure that out. We keep talking about it. We need to actually make plans to do it. Okay, I'm going to jump in today just because my children are unattended upstairs. So hopefully we'll see. Last week I had to stop a couple times because chaos was happening upstairs. But um, I'm going to go ahead and jump in. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for being such lovely humans. Okay, wait. I overfilled my coffee today. You can see it's like up on the top of my cup. But I have my Kermit cup today. I use my Kermit cup for crazy hectic days because Kermit brings me zen. Okay. On we go. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Mom Street USA. I am your host, Jackie, and on today's episode, we are chatting about 5 things that I wish I knew before my first Disney trip with kids. There are so many things to consider when visiting Walt Disney World. There's resorts, there's tickets, there's dining, there's attractions and rides and shows and all of that and more, right? This episode is truly aimed at my top 5 things and tips that I wish I knew before visiting with kids. And I emphasize that with kids because, for some context, I went to the Disney parks a ton when I was in like my early 20s. My best friend Stevie worked there. I would fly down and stay with her. We would go into the parks together for like long weekends and things. So, like, I visited a ton. And that is truly when I fell in love with the parks, was being able to go as a young adult and go with my husband and my best friend and other friends. But after having kids, those trips totally changed. And I know the other parents that have been there that are listening right now are like, yep, exactly. Uh, so we're going to talk about the most important things to think about before your trip with your kids for the first time, because you may be in that same boat, right? You may be somebody that knows the Disney parks really well or has been several times or has done all your research, but really traveling with kids makes such a different experience for your Disney trip. And I do say different, I don't say better or worse. It's just different, right? You don't have as much flexibility, you don't have as much freedom to rope drop and stay out until midnight when when the parks used to stay open that late. That's what I really miss, right? When I was visiting so much and the parks would be open until like midnight, or we'd get a notification on my Disney experience that they extended the park hours by an hour because of capacity. Those were the days. I miss that so much. But that's the goal of today, is to kind of point out some of these differences that you may like have in the back of your head, but might need like some confirmation about how they will or will not change your trip when you're visiting with kids. So before our first Disney trip with kids, I spent months planning, right? They that should surprise nobody because I am such a huge planner, but I spent months planning this first Disney trip that I was taking with my kiddo. Not only was it because it was my oldest's first trip, but also because I was pregnant with my second when we were going on his first trip. So while I knew the rides and the restaurants and the park layouts, there were quite a few things that completely caught me off guard. So, if you are taking kids to Disney for the first time, I hope that the advice that I give you today is going to save you some time and some headache and some meltdowns, whether from you or the kiddos, right? So, the first thing that I wish I knew before my first trip with kids to Disney was your kids won't care about your perfect plan. And we talked a little bit about this just a few episodes ago, but your vacation will be so much better if you just follow your kiddo's joy rather than forcing everybody to stick to a plan. Your kid may become obsessed with the carousel like my youngest did. Your kiddo may want to just go swimming at the resort pool like my oldest does almost every trip that we go. He's constantly asking about what day is our pool day. Your kiddos may find a splash pad in the park that they want to stop and play in. The Journey of Water area in Epcot that's all Moana themed may take you an hour instead of 10 minutes to walk through. Kids wanting to ride the same ride over and over again, caring more about ice cream than what's on your list that comes next, right? All of these things are something that you have to consider when taking kids to the parks. My dog just like, okay, he's good. He laid down next to me. So that's why I put this as number one on the list because I think it is so important that yes, you need to have a plan, and we talk about having a plan, but you also have to have the most flexibility with that plan when it comes for traveling with kids. When it was just my husband and I, and we had a plan, we just did what the plan said. Right? We just went through the rides and we went one to the next, to the next, to the next. We knew when we were going to stop for lunch. We knew whether or not we needed to take a break. Like it was just so natural to follow that plan from top to bottom. With our kids, we cannot. We cannot follow that plan. It's just not necessary. So, or we cannot follow that plan. It's just not feasible to be able to do everything exactly in order how you plan it out. So, like I said, we just did an entire episode about the things that kids really care about at Disney. So, I encourage you to go and listen to that because that episode is part of why this is on my list for things that I wish I knew and things that I wish I thought of before bringing my kids to Disney with me. And yes, I love Sarah in our live chat said her one niece just wanted to wait and meet all of the characters. Her others didn't care and just wanted to ride. So you have to adjust. That's 100% true, especially if you're visiting with more than one kid, right? You're going to, as much as you want to try to stay together, you're going to end up having to divide and conquer at least a little bit with that. So again, your kids don't care about your perfect plan. But that's also not to say that you shouldn't have some sort of plan going into your vacation. You just have to have that realistic expectation of the fact that they may or may not care about the same things that you have planned. The second thing that I wish I knew before taking my kids to Disney is, and this one may sound a little obvious, but Disney is way more walking than you expect. And the reason I say it sounds obvious is I feel like this is the first thing that people think about whenever they think about going to any of the Disney parks or theme park anywhere that you may end up going. But Disney truly is so much more walking than you anticipate because it's not only just walking in the parks, it's walking from your room to transportation, right, at your resort. It's walking from wherever the buses drop you off to get to the main front gate. It's walking because your food that you want is 3/4 of the way around World Showcase. And so you end up having to walk 3/4 of a mile to get there, right? You hear that everybody talk about how much walking it is, and it is so true. And it's so much more than you expect. Like 10,000 steps is minimum on a true Disney day. Typically 8 to 12 miles every day is the like average norm for Disney trips. And your kids are going to tire much more quickly than you may anticipate. You may say, oh, yeah, we are going to practice the walking. We're going to go to the zoo, or we're going to go to our local fair or amusement park. And they may be fine there. Disney is so much more walking than that. And not only that, but it's also coupled with the fact that you are still on your feet, even if you're not walking, but you're waiting, standing and waiting for the parade, standing and waiting in a 20-minute line. While the line's not very long, you're still standing and you're still on your feet, standing and waiting for HEA, the fireworks show at the end of night at Magic Kingdom, or standing and waiting for Luminous over at Epcot, right? There is so much more time spent on your feet than you really truly think about. So you really have to think about your stroller situation. If you are at all questioning your kiddo's ability to walk the entire day, you need to have a stroller, right? There is absolutely no shame in having a stroller for your 7, 8, 9-year-old kiddo. You know their limits, right? You know what they're capable of. You know what they're going to be able to do. So you need to make sure that you plan accordingly for that. I just realized I forgot to start my recording. So we'll have to piece together this episode. It'll be fine. Oh my gosh, you guys. Okay, that's the kind of morning it's been and the kind of day I'm going to have today. So, we're good. I'm recording now, so I'll just have to find the beginning part of that to piece together with this. It's fine. We're good. Okay, let me go back a little bit. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a stroller for your 7, 8, 9-year-old kiddo. You know what they're capable of. You know whether or not they're going to be able to last the day. But also, you have to remember that this day at Disney is potentially way longer than any other day you're going to spend at the zoo or the fair or your local amusement park, right? Especially if you're somebody that's trying to rope drop and you're trying to do fireworks, even with a break in the middle of the day for your kiddo, that's still a really long day, which means much more steps, much more being on your feet. The other thing to consider with this is, even if they are stroller age, the chances are good that they will still end up walking some during your day. So you have to make sure you're thinking about what shoes they have, even if you anticipate them being in the stroller for most of the time. This is one thing that I didn't think about when it came to walking and being on your feet for my oldest's first trip. He was just under 2 when we went, and I just packed his normal shoes that we always had him wear, just around. And I didn't really think about the fact that he wanted to walk a ton in the parks. He didn't want to be in the stroller. He wanted to be on Main Street, walking down the road. Like, he wanted to be out of the stroller. So I didn't think about the fact that I needed to have him follow the same kind of shoe packing that I have my husband and I follow, in that he needed 2 pairs of really good sneakers that he was going to be able to wear. He needed a pair of flip-flops. He needed sandals, like the things that you think about for yourself. I didn't think about for him. And so that became, it wasn't a huge problem, but I could have planned better for that. Also, you've got to think about sacrificing fashion for comfort, even for your kiddos. Uh, Princess dresses go great with a pair of tennis shoes, right? So you have to think about those things, because you don't want to end up with your kiddos' feet hurting because they're going to be not maybe as equipped to handle it, or as equipped to express what it is that hurts and how it hurts and where it hurts on their feet, because it may be a completely new sensation to them, especially if they are typically a kiddo that's in the stroller when you go places. That's going to be brand new to them. So you really need to think about that when it comes to the walking, the standing, the being on your feet. The other thing that I will kind of pair into this second thing that we're talking about now on this list of five is along with the walking, you also have to remember that your kiddos will often need more fuel than normal to keep going because of the walking. So you want to think about smaller, more frequent meals rather than your standard meal times that you normally eat. So grabbing a quick breakfast at the room, but then stopping for a mid-morning snack and then doing some lunch and then an afternoon snack and then dinner and then another snack at the end of the day. You've just really got to think about fueling their little bodies, even up through elementary into their teen years too, right? You have to think about them being able to fuel their bodies. And especially if you're going during the summer, smaller, more frequent meals are going to be much more helpful for them because their body is going to be sweating and exerting that energy all day, but their bellies are not going to be used to the heat necessarily, unless you're somewhere that has a similar climate to Florida. But generally speaking, their bellies are not going to be used to that heat. So you need to do smaller meals. You need to, even though maybe a kid's meal doesn't look like it'll be enough for your kiddo, will it be enough until your next scheduled, somewhat quote unquote scheduled snack break, right? So those are things to consider along with the walking, is just being able to take care of your body, take care of your feet, but also take care of fueling your body with the right amount of food at the right times, plus water and electrolytes at the same time, right? So considering that for your kiddos as well as for yourself also. So, the third thing that I wish I had known before taking my kiddos to Disney for the first time is that everything, and I say everything very broadly, but it'll make sense in a moment, everything takes longer than you think at Disney World. Whether that's transportation, security, bathroom breaks, meals and snacks, waiting in lines, parking the stroller, doing character interactions, you spend way more time stopped than you do moving in the parks. You know, transportation, stopping and having to wait for the bus, for the monorail, for the Skyliner, whatever transportation you're waiting on. That takes a lot longer than you think, especially when you're trying to get back to the room for like a break or a nap. You got to leave way more time than you think to be able to get back if you're on a specific time crunch for like nap time for your kiddo. Going through security, people often think, "Oh, if I leave my resort 30 minutes before early park entry, I'll be fine. It won't be a big deal." They don't think about the security line. Security takes, especially in the mornings at rope drop, it takes a solid half hour minimum, I would say, unless you get really lucky. But security takes a long time to get through. Bathroom breaks, especially if you've got a bunch of little kiddos that you're traveling with, you're doing more frequent bathroom breaks. They take a little bit longer just because kiddos tend to take longer than adults do whenever it's that time. Meals and snacks, again, especially if you have a turtle eater, which is what I lovingly refer to my youngest as, because she takes so long to eat her meals that she's my turtle. But those just take longer than if you're traveling with just adults, although I eat slow too, so I don't have much room to talk. But waiting in lines, right? You hope you don't have to wait very long in lines, but sometimes that happens. And sometimes even if you're using lightning lanes, the wait is still a full 15 or 20 minutes instead of a walk-on. So that takes longer. Finding the right place to park your stroller for the first time can be super stressful, and it can be tricky because not every ride has stroller parking immediately out front of the building, right? Or out front of the queue, depending on where you are. So finding the right place to park your stroller, parking the stroller, getting the kids out, making sure you have everything you want to take with you so you're not leaving valuables in your stroller and you have everything you need. The process just takes a while until you get into a good routine of how all of these little small logistical things are going to work. Character interactions are a big one too. It can be really hard, especially when you get towards the end of that line. If you can peek around the corner and see the characters, it can be really hard to wait, and it just feels like it takes longer than you anticipate, right? again, you spend way more time stopped than moving. This doesn't even count things like sunscreen, stroller adjustments, outfit changes, water refills. It all just adds up. And it's all part of the day, but it's just something to consider whenever you are thinking about your route and thinking about what rides you're doing when and where you're going to end up when you think you're going to need a bathroom break. And, we got in the habit of pretty much anytime we got in a line that was longer than 15 minutes, we went into the bathroom, so just the logistical things with having to wait for things that can take a lot longer than you maybe think that they're going to. So I encourage you to practice your patience and to again remember that your perfect plan is still perfect, even if it doesn't get executed 100% all the way through, right? The fourth thing that I wish I knew before visiting Walt Disney World with my kiddos for the first time was considering the mindset of breaks are part of your vacation. So, sleeping in at Disney sounds completely counterproductive, but resort days are so important to be able to regenerate, recover, recoup a little bit so that way you can finish out your vacation and still have a good time in the parks that are left over on your list, right? So, making sure that you allow for those breaks and you schedule in that time, right? You may be right in the middle of your morning rope drop plan, and maybe you've gone on 3 rides and you've got 2 more you want to try to get done before the lines get super busy. And your kiddo may decide that they need to take a break, especially if you're not doing a stroller because you think they're going to be fine. You're going to have to plan in more breaks for those like late elementary, middle school age group because they are not going to have the leg stamina that the older teens and adults maybe in your group have. So just realizing and being in tune with what your kiddos need when it comes to being in the parks and taking breaks, but also considering break days too. Pool days, like I mentioned earlier, are often some of my kiddos' favorite days. My kids still talk about, gosh, 4 or 5 trips ago, we stayed at Port Orleans French Quarter, and they still talk about that pool, and they still talk about the day that we spent swimming and how we gave them an extra day to swim because they loved the water slide there so much and it was so much fun. They still talk about that. So sometimes those pool days can be the favorite days of your kiddos. My kids also talk about, we had a day that we did a resort day where we just like did the activities that they had planned, and we checked out the arcade and we played at the playground that they had at our resort. And there are things like that that, again, the kiddos want to find the magic for themselves a little bit, right? There's a lot of magic that we as parents can create for our kids on Disney trips. We can create, going on a ton of rides using lightning lanes. We can create getting to wait in line for their favorite character or watching a parade or things like that. But I think like intrinsically, your kids also want to find some of that magic for themselves. And that's where I think following their joy is so important. So if they're having a ton of fun just playing, I mentioned the Moana area earlier in this episode, but if they just want to play in the Moana area, just let them do it, right? There's no sense in rushing around and having to get to the next thing when they are having so much fun where you are now. Just let yourself breathe and live in the moment and take a mental break maybe for a few minutes as you are enjoying watching them enjoy themselves doing whatever it is that you may be doing. And I do think if you've got, 4 or 5 park days, you've got to plan a resort day in the middle there because it just gets to be too much. It just gets to be too much. So you've got to remember breaks are part of the vacation. Pool days, doing mini golf, doing any of the resort activities we just talked about a few episodes ago, different things that you can do without a park ticket when you go to Disney. Picking a day and picking one or two of those to go explore can be so much fun, and it doesn't even have to involve your perfect park itinerary for the day. So, remembering that breaks are part of your vacation can really help you have just a more enjoyable trip. And my last thing, number 5, that I wish I knew before taking kids to Disney World is you won't do everything, right? You can plan and you can hope and you can think that it's all going to work out, but you're just not going to end up doing everything, and that's okay. Again, you have to follow what your kids do and then focus on the favorites, right? So if this is your first trip or your second trip, you can probably anticipate fairly well what it is that your kids are going to want to do on any of your park days, right? You can look at those rides and you can go, yep, that's exactly what they're going to want to do. I know that this is like the top of their priority list, or maybe you pulled up some YouTube point of view videos that you watched with them to help them decide what it is that they want to do on your trip, right? So focus on those favorites, focus on your top picks, and then after that, just kind of see where the day takes you. And again, with the understanding that you're not going to be able to do everything. One of the most enjoyable days or even moments of your day can be when you let your kids just lead the way. Now, this is more for kiddos that are a little bit older, right? Maybe not so much toddlers, but you could even do it to an extent, giving your toddler a choice of what character they want to go see, or giving your toddler a choice of different areas that you can go to next. Or if you're standing in Storybook Circus, do they want to ride Barnstormer or do they want to ride Dumbo, right? If you're standing in Fantasyland, do they want to go, make it something visible? Do they want to go to the carousel? Do they want to go somewhere else? There are still ways in which you can help them lead the way. So you can do this purposefully, or you can just follow their cues. You can let them kind of lead you to whatever looks interesting to them, depending on where you are and how busy it is, and those different situational factors. But letting them lead the way. And I've talked about before on my last big family trip that I did with my parents and my sister and her girls and my kids. We scheduled in some kind of free time and we tried to anticipate. I mean, I knew more like what my kids were going to want to do and redo and reride, but we tried to anticipate what we thought my oldest niece was going to want to do. And but she shocked us all in the fact that she loved the roller coasters we took her on. She loved Barnstormer, she loved Seven Dwarfs, she loved Slinky Dog. So like we weren't anticipating that at all. So on the days we went back to those parks, because we were very lucky, we had park hoppers and we kind of were all over the place and had several days in the parks. And so when we went back to those parks, those became our priority because those were things that she wanted to do and things that she loved. And so we got to ride Barnstormer like 4 or 5 times on that trip because she just loved it so much. So things like that where you let them have the time and you say, what do you want to do? Right? Our last day of that trip was just my kids, and us. My other family had left and headed back home, and we had one extra day. And we told the kids, hey, you guys get to pick. You guys get to pick what we do today. And we had been kind of like reminding them as we went through the week, like, oh, hey, this would be a really good thing to do on our last day when you get to pick what we're doing. Or, oh, hey, think about this when it comes to the last day. So we kind of were prepping them all along as we went through our trip. And the dinner the night before that day, we were like, okay, where do you want to start? And we kind of helped guide them. And my son really wanted to ride Dinosaur again for the last time because it was getting ready to close. And so we ended up rope dropping Animal Kingdom, which I did not anticipate. I did not think that would be where we would end up. But we did all four parks that day because they just wanted to hop around and do their favorite things. And now my older one is more opinionated on things like that because he has specific rides that are like his jam and his favorites. My younger, she's a little bit more go with the flow. But she still had things that she wanted to do. And there were things for her because I knew that she would have a hard time like remembering. My older one knows what rides are at what park and how to get there. He's like a walking map already at, just under 10 years old. My youngest is not quite that way. I knew she was going to have a hard time remembering what was at what park and what rides were even where. So I was making like a mental list as we went through the week to help her out. But we had so much fun, and it was just like we went to each park, we hit a few little things there, and then we kept on moving. And so it was so much fun to see what they chose, and so much fun to just like let them have the ownership of that. And it was a blast, right? And that's the thing about this. Again, you won't do everything, and every trip is going to be so different. You may want to focus on re-rides, or you may want to focus on new rides. You may want to focus on characters or shows or something totally new that you guys have never done before, right? There are so many different ways that you can kind of plan to have a unique experience, and every trip to Disney is going to be a unique experience no matter what. So, even if you don't get through everything, your kids are still going to have amazing memories. And it's going to leave you something for your next trip, right? Because it is impossible to do everything on a Disney trip. Even if you're there for 2 weeks, you're still not going to get to every single thing that you want to do. It's just not possible, right? There's so many different activities and resorts to see, and it's just too much, right? So even though you don't get through everything, it leaves something for your next trip. So it leaves you the comfort of knowing like, yep, we know we're going to be back in a year or two. We're going to put these, 3 or 4 things that we really wish we could have done but didn't get to. They're going to move to the top of our list for consideration on our next trip. And that gives you something fun to plan for on your second trip with your kids as a family. So again, you're not going to be able to do everything, but that's okay. Well, I know it was kind of short and sweet, but those are the 5 things that I wish I knew before I visited the Disney parks with my kids. Hopefully, this list is helpful in giving you something to consider before you go with kids, whether you are a seasoned Disney pro or a newbie to the Disney parks. Either way, if you want help, you can always reach out to me if you need help with planning itineraries or planning for different things with your kiddos or packing or any of the aspects that go into planning a Disney trip. I am always here to help. You can find me momstreetusa@gmail.com. You can also find me at momstreetusa on all of the social media platforms, including Patreon, which is a great place to chat over there. I got to be a little better about posting over there. This summer schedule has gotten to me and I've been slacking a little over there. So let me know what you guys want to see over there. I do have some photos and things I think I owe you guys from previous episodes that I can get ready to post over there in the coming weeks. Speaking of the coming weeks, our next episode of Mom Street USA, we are jumping back into spooky season for a little bit because believe it or not, we are just a few weeks away from the very first Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party starting over at Magic Kingdom, which is absolutely crazy to think about that we are already to that point, but here we are there. So next episode, we are going to be talking about some of the new things that are coming for this spooky season, and I'm going to be talking through some of my favorites from Halloween season and the fall season over at Walt Disney World. So be sure to join me for that, especially if you've got a trip coming up this fall. We'll make sure to go over all of the new things that the Disney Resort is offering for this spooky season. So with that, thank you all so much for being here for this short and sweet episode of Mom Street USA, and I will see you all on the next episode. Bye, everyone. Okay. Oh, I'm so mad that I forgot to hit record. It's okay. I'll just have to pull it off of the YouTube stream whenever I go to edit this episode. Which is what I used to do before I started using the like OBS software and all of that, but I usually use it as a good time indicator so I know how long I've talked for, so I know if I need to talk slower or faster. And I looked down and I was like, it's not going. Man, that's okay. So, yeah, we're going to talk about spooky season next week. I don't know. I looked a little bit at some of the new stuff. I know they've got some new food, um, and I think some new character type stuff that they announced. So we'll have to go through that. And then, yeah, I'm going to give like some of my favorites and some of my top choices. So, yeah. And Sarah, the nice thing is I always have a backup because I do it live, which is part of the reason why I do it live and because I like talking with you guys. But I have a backup, which is nice. So the YouTube live stream I will be able to download to use for that first part, and then I can swap over to the recorded version after that. So yeah, not the hugest deal, but just more steps for me whenever I have to go and edit it this weekend, which is fine. So yeah. Well, thank you guys. I know this was kind of quick, but like I said, there's like a million things going on in my world right now. So thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you guys for watching and for being here and for being lovely humans who join me every Friday at lunchtime. I appreciate you. Are you trying to go to Halloween? I know, Sarah. I want to so bad, but the funds are not there. So we'll have to see what I can pull off. I need to figure out for sure what I'm doing in September and October because it's right around the corner and I don't have uh very much time to get that all planned. So that's on the list after this weekend probably to sit down and look at all of that. So yes, you too. Thank you, Sarah. So I will see you guys at some point next week in the live streams. I hope you all have a wonderful, relaxing, enjoyable weekend, and I will see you guys all very soon. Thanks for hanging out. Bye, guys.